Hello and welcome. In today's exciting episode, I am working on a tweed jacket, but it's not finished yet. And there's the sewing quiz going around at the moment, this way or that way. So I thought I would answer those 20 questions and show you 20 of my favourite summer dresses that I've made in the past year or so. It's perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Perfect jacket. There is a tweed jacket that I'm working on, as I mentioned in the intro. It's got the green in it. It's the Italian tweed, and it's absolutely gorgeous. But I think you can probably guess which silk I'm going to use for the lining on that one. It's such a beautiful tweed. Anyway, it's in progress, but it's not finished yet. Because I realised the last video you saw was me making the vintage dress out of the patchworks. And I was so excited with the way that turned out. I was really, really thrilled with and happy with the end product. And it was just such an amazing process of just turning all these discarded scraps into something usable. It was really awesome. But then as soon as I finished it and I'd uploaded it and I sat back and I was like, actually, I'm kind of exhausted. So yeah, instead of working on the tweed jacket and furiously trying to finish that for today's episode, I thought I'll just not lean into the burnout, and instead I'll just show you some of my favorite summer dresses and I'll answer the sewing quiz. So I haven't heard of this before, but I was watching So Natural Dane, and I think it was episode 702 of her video on YouTube, and she did the challenge and she'd seen it from Julie on the Curated Curvy. Absolutely awesome as well. And she got it from the podcast Love to Sew. And I mean, obviously there's podcasts about everything, but it hadn't occurred to me that there was sewing podcasts. So then I went and listened to that episode. I'll link them all below, put links in the description box below. Anyway, so there's 20 questions and you've just got to say, are you this or something else? So here we go. The first topic area is sewing preparation. So what do you do before you get to the actual sewing? Number one is about fabric. Do you like to stash bust or do you like to just shop for something new? I think it'd be really, these dresses were inspired by the movie Amelie. I just love red and green together. So it's not Christmas at a weird time or anything, although there are some Christmas fabrics in there. I always get asked about this pattern because my versions of the dress look like something that Rose wore on the Titanic. This is a plain sleeve from a shirt dress that I had, and also discontinued. This pattern, I swear though, the one I just showed you, it came out last year and it's already discontinued. Personally, I think it's because they don't style the cover of their Simplicity do a really, really bad job sometimes of styling the covers of their patterns, the paper patterns, in my opinion. Anywho, so the question was, do you stash bust or do you shop new? When I buy an expensive fabric, like if I buy a tweed, I absolutely know beyond doubt what jacket pattern I'm going to make with it, because that informs how much I buy. But if it's just a fashion fabric, which they're like a lot less, I just like going to the clearance sections and the remnant sections, and these are the discarded fabrics that people don't love anymore. They just want to get rid of them. And I really like buying them and going, I can give you a good home. I can fulfill your potential. So I like buying stuff and then having it. When I buy it, I'm like, oh, this would make a good this. This would make a good this. But then when I get it home and put it in my stash, I'm just like, it changes. I'm like, I see all the different possibilities. So I enjoy the process of having a stash and going through it and going, oh, no, actually, I'll make this, I'll make this, I'll make this. Wow, I did not record enough footage of these summer dresses. Okay, I'm going to have to rush through these. PDFs or paper patterns? Paper all the way, absolutely. 3, cutting or tracing? Tracing. I learn more about the pattern by tracing it. And also I'm short-waisted, I've got really tiny shoulders and normal-sized hips. So I just feel, also I like having the actual pattern and all there so that I can sort of look at it and understand it more. So I like having the complete pattern and not ever touching it and just tracing copies. Muslin or go for it. It depends. If I'm going to use really expensive fabric, then I'll usually make a wearable mock-up first. And then if that works, that's awesome. And if it doesn't, I'll alter it. Sometimes if it's a particular type of jacket and I know I just need a muslin, then I'll do it out of like a mock-up. Then I'll do it out of cotton, a sort of canvas weight cotton, a heavy cotton, just so that I can see what it's going to look like in the proper weight. So yeah, so it really just depends on the project. But for dresses, I usually just go for it. Okay, now topic 2 is fabric. So question 1, do you like to shop in-store or online? Well, before the pandemic, absolutely in-store, because I was still buying tweeds then. And can't really appreciate these are all my yellow ones. So there's the vintage tulips ones, and this is then there's close-ups of each of the vintage style prints. The pink moss is absolutely adorable, and that's just a quilting cotton. And the other one, the top one is linen, and the other two, it's a linen cotton blend, 50-50, and the other two are this one. I love the blue flowers in this. I just love the mix. It's so beautiful. I wish I could get more of that fabric. Anyway, so I like to shop in store, but I had COVID really bad, and it turned into long COVID, and it lasted almost 2 years. And it's only been like the last year that I've been able to like do stuff and not stop and go, oh, I have to lie down to lie down for the rest of the day. So I still wear a mask, and I'm really careful about that sort of thing. So it's sort of mostly, I do most things online now. So the dress with the moths is from the Vintage Vogue 1939 one, and I just put an extra panel in the skirt, and then I've got the 1950s net petticoat underneath it. Okay, question 2 is knits or woven. Well, obviously these are all wovens, so absolutely wovens all the way. 3, tumble dry or naturally hang dry your makes. I try to naturally hang dry everything, but obviously sometimes you're running late and you sort of I always feel like a bit of a failure when I have to tumble dry everything. Anyway, 4, Rotary cutter or scissors. I love the sound of your good dressmaking scissors cutting through fabric, and it's like I just love that sound. It's just like, ooh, something good is about to be made. It's so cool. Ooh, that's the end of this topic. I rushed through that one. I should probably start topic 3 because that's got loads of questions in it. Okay, topic 3 is clothing construction. Do you follow the pattern or do you wing it? For the first time, I usually just, when I first trace out the pattern, I read through the instructions just to see if it's the way I think I would do it or if it's a different way. Especially if I'm doing like a step-by-step video, I have to say this is what you do, they tell you to do, and I agree with that, or I tried that and it didn't work in my first wearable mock-up. So like with this dress, it's actually got a shirt front. It's Vogue 9106 from 1952. And if you see in the illustration, it's a collarless shirt front. So it's got a left side and a right side that overlap. But I read, and then it's got facings on the inside. And I was just like, hell no. So if you want to make a lining instead of facings, you can't really have overlapping left and right. You have to have it all in one piece. So I redrafted the front of the bodice so that it's all one piece. It's still got the slash and gather under the bust, but it doesn't have the shirt front sort of bit in the middle of the center front, so that you can do just a lining piece and just an outer bodice. And then that way when you attach the skirt, all the raw seams go up into the middle. So I did change quite a bit in that, but I also explained why I changed it in the video. I'm much more articulate in the actual video. But anyway, yeah, so it sort of just depends. But I usually see what they've written, just so, I mean, I do want to learn something new, but otherwise, if I'm going to alter it, then I'll sort of do it the old-fashioned way. I really love the way things were done in the 1930s and the 1940s. Obviously, terrible time in history, but just the sewing methods that were used then tend to be my go-to or historic ones. So yeah, as a general rule, that's sort of what I go for. The next question is serge seams or French seams. Well, occasionally I do French seams, but as I said, normally I just use the methods from the 1930s and 1940s. I hand stitch the seams, or I do flat felt seams, generally speaking. Or when something's fully lined, it's encased between the lining, all your raw edges are between the lining and the outer, so they're all protected. And then you also wear undergarments like a petticoat as well. So yeah, it's just different methods, different beliefs. So number 4 is buttonfly or zipper. I don't like either. I try to avoid both of them as much as humanly possible. I love snaps. Again, they were popular in the 1930s and 1940s. So yeah, and also I just like the idea of being sewn into a garment or just being able to slip it on and off. So yeah, it just depends, but I use zip when I have to, and use buttons when I have to, but I try to avoid them at all costs. Buttonholes by hand or by sewing machine. If you've got a really, really good vintage sewing machine, then absolutely do buttonholes by sewing machine. Otherwise, I just like the look of hand made buttonholes. Modern sewing machines tend to squash the fabric, and I mean, the thing I do most is tweed jackets, and the one thing that kills the beauty of tweed is machines like the presser foot. So yeah, that's my pet hate. Fusible interfacing or sew in. I tend to just cut out an extra piece from the actual fabric and use that instead, or 1 or 2 pieces, because I hate that super hard plasticky thing look of iron-on interfacing. And also, I love having a hidden extra spare piece of fabric that you can carry around in as part of the garment. I think that's cool. I've run out of dress footage. Well, I've got more, but it's for later on. These are the scraps that I've been cutting up into usable bits. Anyway, the next question is snip as you go or cut all your threads at the end at once. I do as I go, but also at the end, then I do, all the ones that I've missed. And the last question in topic 3 is, do you press as you go or all at once? I try to avoid ironing at all costs when I'm sewing. So I guess I'm B, all at once at the end. Okay, we're up to topic 4, the last topic. And there's only 3 questions in this one. Oh, so I probably could have used more dresses in the last one. Okay, anyway, so do you like late night sewing or during the day? Well, I love the natural light of during the day, but obviously, we all have bills to pay, so and other people like to work during the day for some reason. So yeah, I just sort of fit things around, but obviously when you're shooting videos, natural light just looks so much better. You cannot buy any amount of fancy lighting that will be as good as daylight. So I have to do a lot in my lunch breaks. But and beading is always more fun when you're doing it by natural light. So I just have my desk, my workbench in front of a beautiful natural source of natural light. So I get a lot of light, but obviously sometimes you do have to work at night, but working at night wouldn't be my natural default. Well, I tend to do a lot of the hand sewing for the jackets that I make at night while I'm watching a movie or TV shows or listening to something, just because that way it'll be ready, like the next step where I have to shoot the video during the daylight hours will be ready. So yeah, I tend to do a lot of sewing at night, but if I had all the time in the world between each video, then I would probably only work during the day. I absolutely love that Liberty of London snowdrop fabric. It's so pretty. Okay, question 2 for this section, slow and steady or frantic sewing. I heard the podcast and apparently I think this is more for people who sew with knits. They like making something, like cutting it, then making it in an hour. I don't know. I really enjoy the process. When I first started making jackets, I made one every 2 months, and I'd use the first month to make the jacket. And then I'd use the second month to think about the beading and do the beading and sew the beading onto the jacket. So by the end of the 2 months, I would have this one amazing jacket that had couture details. And it was just, everything was exactly as I wanted it to be. And it was just something I would have had to have saved up like a decade to afford something like this. And even by then, they wouldn't make it anymore, even by order. And I don't know, I just really appreciated everything about making something slowly. Like, I don't know, it's each their own, but I can totally see the merit of doing something straight away and then being able to wear it. It's so much fun wearing something new that you made. It's awesome. So I think there's merit in all different types of projects. And I think sometimes you just need, like, sometimes I'll bake a batch of cookies or something because it's done. Like, you just pour stuff into this bowl and then you knead it and then you pop it on a tray and it's done. Like 30 minutes later, you get to eat stuff that was like horrible ingredients, boring ingredients to start with. And yeah, because I'm a writer, and you can take 8 years to do one project, and it's just draft after draft, notes after notes, and it's just takes so long. And with the type of jackets that I make, it's kind of the same. Each one just feels like it's taking forever until it's finally done, and then you're like, oh, it's finally done. That's amazing. But yeah, so there's absolute merit in doing small, fast projects, just, doing them. It's not sloppy, but, these dresses took a tiniest fraction of the amount of time that one of my jackets take. And I absolutely love them. They are gorgeous. So, that's my African wax fabric. I've got one piece of Ankara fabric and I made it into this gorgeous maxi dress. I love it so much. Anyway, we've got one question left. Do you tidy as you go, or do you do one big cleaning session? Well, probably two, but if there was a third option of absolutely never until I totally have to clean, that's kind of me. But then if we're talking about just sewing, then I sort of clean as I go. Like you can see on the bench that there's all these scraps that I'm cutting up. So I'm very methodical when I'm cutting out projects. I'll put some aside to be scraps, some aside to be used in layer cakes, some will go in the garbage, and others, or if there's a bit big enough to be another top or something, that will go back into the fabric stash. So I'm very methodical about some things, but because I've been juggling, I've been really busy recently, and I've had to sort of juggle all the different projects for all the different videos to get them all finished and up in time. I've sort of had to have a lot of different patterns out, and I've had to keep different stacks around, and then I'd have to move a stack to get it out of the way of the last shots of the video, and then I'd have to put them back, but I didn't want to mix them with another one. So yeah, it's been a bit of a mess at the moment, and I really, really need to do one big clean. So yeah, I have to stop putting it off. But then again, there's something to be said for procrastination, because I set out to clean up and then I got sidetracked with my red and pink and coral coloured scraps, and I turned them into a vintage dress. And I never would have done that, never in a million years, if I hadn't been so determined to procrastinate. And the only reason I had my scraps out anyway was because of Anne-Marie's sewing challenge for the Sew Reversible 2023, which was awesome. Like, I never would have made that quilted reversible jacket otherwise. And I love it. I absolutely love it. And I love this vintage dress too. And yeah, so I don't know. I mean, there's a time and a place for order, absolutely. But just recently I've been sort of going, you know what, I should try this. I've been a little bit more open to things, and I think the results have been awesome. And that is the end of the questions. So I'll put a link in the description box below to the podcast and to the sewing YouTubers that I've mentioned, and you should go and check them out. But thank you very much for watching. Let me know if you think my answers are terrible and controversial to some of the questions. I don't expect other people to do things my way, obviously. Oh, and because I did the Sew Reversible and Marie Sew Reversible challenge, I bought this Berta pattern and I made this embellished tweed jacket, which I absolutely love. So yeah, definitely step out of your comfort zone and try new things. I mean, the worst you can do is like fail dismally, and that's not really that bad. You can just unpick it and do something else with the fabric. That dress on the rainbow raindrops dress on the left was inspired by a vintage Valentino dress from the 1970s. So that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you were entertained. I will put the questions below, so feel free to answer them. And I forgot to tell you earlier, this is actually Christmas fabric, but when I first saw it, I was like, oh, it's a tree with a ladybug infestation. So of course I put my ladybug sash on there. Anyway, happy sewing.